Brian, what have I always said is my one rule?
Never watch you in the shower.
Listen to TV guys. Listen to TV guys. I'm Matt, and have you met Brian?
I guess that makes me Brian.
I didn't hold out the have long enough to give you time to kind of get ready for it. But we are, as you can tell, going to talk about How I Met Your Mother, because we talk about that pretty much every week, right?
Yeah, I think after The Office is probably our most referenced show.
We've never had an episode that's just about How I Met Your Mother. We've come close by talking about terrible protagonists, and we spent a lot of time talking about how Ted is an awful, awful human being. But
hold a second. I'm getting a phone call. Hey, Bob. Yeah, we're doing the podcast now. Are you ready? Oh, okay. All right, guys. It turns out I promised Bob Saget would be on this podcast. He just called me. Apparently, he's having a separate party with John Stamos, and he bailed on us. So I'm sorry we don't have Bob Saget.
That sucks. Hey, fun fact: my birthday is the same birthday as Bob Saget.
Didn't you tell us that last week?
Did I bring that up? I know, like, I mentioned it on the Movies on a Monday podcast. Was that the one that we, like, the crossover episode?
Maybe, because I remember talking about my birthday twin was Kirsten Dunst from Super Spider-Man, and you were like, no, she's from Jumanji.
That's right. Yep. So second week in a row, you're going to hear that I share a birthday with Bob Saget. You're welcome, world.
And who's cooler, Bob Saget or Kirsten Dunst?
Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
I don't view Bob Saget as very cool. Not at all. I'm sorry. Yeah. But he does do a very good future Ted voice.
He does. Even though Josh Radnor is already an adult.
Even though. And then they have him play him at the very end after the whole story is told. It's like, Dad, why does your voice all of a sudden way different? Oh, sorry, I have a story voice and a normal voice.
They make fun of it in Family Guy once. He's like, wait, is he going to like morph into Bob Saget as he gets older? Do we all just turn into Bob Saget?
It's true. If you don't know that, that's what happens. That's your future. So if it hasn't happened yet to you, just get ready.
All right.
But we're going to talk about some running gags. And I don't know if we were going to plan to do like a top 3. I grabbed out 6, so I can talk about 3 of them. I don't know what I'd put as my top 3. It's usually nice and clean for us to be like, here's our list. But I've got some that are just a lot of fun.
I have 3, but like I said, I also have a bunch of ones that I could talk about as well.
Sounds good. One of them, I just wanted to bring it up because it's something that I did all the time when I was watching the show and it was on. And it's the name that I have right now for on
I do that too.
So there's this gag between Robin and Ted that they do where it's like anytime someone says something that's like a rank in the military, so it's like this is a private matter, they both, without missing a beat, both salute together and go private matter or something like that. Mine is general knowledge right now. So I used to do that all the time and it would annoy the junk out of Paul.
You know what? I take that back. I think after The Office, Paul is our most referenced thing on this podcast.
That's true. He's the one who talks the most to us and gives us the most feedback. So of course we're going to bring him up the most because we love you, Paul. We like to hear from you.
Which means, listeners, if you want to be referenced a lot, engage with us.
Exactly. That's true. No, I just think Paul was jealous he wasn't a part of it because it was me and Jessica and Allison who were us 3 would do that together.
I did it as well.
Yeah, but you weren't as cool as us 3, so I'm sorry. So that's a top running gag for me. Brian, what's a running gag from this show that you absolutely love?
One I liked a lot because it kept getting crazier was the doppelgangers.
Because we started on here.
Yep, we started out with, so it ended up being Stripper Lily, Mustache Marshall. Who's the most boring one? Because he's just a Marshall with a mustache.
Which actually is amazing. Marshall with a mustache is fantastic, sir.
I suppose, yeah. Gynecologist Barney, lesbian Robin, and Mexican wrestler Ted, which I agree with Ted, is the coolest one.
I liked actually how they introduced it, because the one thing that How I Met Your Mother does well is it kind of puts you in the middle of them and it gives you some context previously for things, but it's like you've been a part of the running joke all along. So they had already met two of the doppelgangers before they even bring up doppelgangers. They had met Lesbian Robin and Mustache Marshall, and then they meet Stripper Lily. Yeah. And so when they meet Stripper Lily, he's like, well, hang on for a second. I need to tell you about this doppelganger thing that we do. Let me give you some context. So, it's not like this all happened within the course of a year or two where they find all their doppelgangers. It's like they have been doing this for a while. So I really like them bringing it in that way.
And I like the fake out. So towards the end, they found all of them except for Barney's. And Lily and Marshall have a whole thing like, well, it's our sign from the universe. If we find Barney's doppelganger, that means we're supposed to start having a kid. And they think they meet Barney's doppelganger because there's like some cab driver. And then it turns out that that's actually Barney doing some play to meet women.
Oh, wait, no, I was going to remember it wrong because I was going to say then he was like a street performer, but it was just Lily, like, making it up in her head because she wanted to have kids, right?
No, the street performer was Barney acting like a doppelganger because he wanted to help them out. He was trying to like be his own doppelganger because he knew that they both wanted to have kids. So he wanted to just make it happen. It's like one of those instances of Barney actually being nice.
Gotcha. And then there was one other one that they saw him and they're like, oh, that's Lily saw the doppelganger. It was like, that's it. And everyone was like, that doesn't look like, I don't remember who that one was.
That was a hot dog vendor, I think. And like, first we see it from Lily's eyes and it's Barney, and we see it from everybody else's eyes and it's a guy with like maybe somewhat similar hair or something. And it's like,
like the version of Denzel Washington from Game Night. Did you ever watch that movie?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, if you only think so, then you haven't seen it, because if you saw it, you would remember. That movie is fantastic. You need to go rewatch it.
I've seen the movie, but I don't remember the Denzel part.
There was like this backstory with Winston's girlfriend or wife, whatever the relationship was. How about like back in a long time ago, she had this fling with Denzel Washington, and then she's talking about it and is like, that wasn't Denzel. And so like then it becomes more obvious that they actually in the movie they alter his face digitally to seem more like Denzel Washington right when she meets him, and then they slowly pull back the CGI on it until it's like, oh, that's obviously not him.
I kind of like when they do that. They make it we see it first from the eyes of them. It's kind of like when Robin was dating like an older guy, and it was realistic. That's when they had Brett Favre on there as like a guest appearance. But then they said everybody else viewed him super old, and all of a sudden for the rest of the episode, he's played by this like 70, 80-year-old guy.
I do like that they do that. This wasn't on my list, but I do like that they toy with that as well. Like let's like the girlfriend that Ted had that wouldn't stop talking. And actually I love that whole episode because it's like the glass breaking episode, and I really like all the stuff that comes out in that, where it's like the way that Ted always is correcting people how they pronounce stuff, or there's something Marshall's always singing, Lily always chews her food really loud, that whole thing. So I like that whole episode. But yeah, the girlfriend that always like spoke way too much, and then she at the end he bumps into her again and she's with a guy who's deaf, and she's like, oh, or he's like, that makes sense, and then she tells the deaf guy that she doesn't ever stop talking, which I think has the subtitle glass breaking.
Didn't they do that similar joke on Friends when they found out that Janice was dating a guy that was like deaf in one ear?
They might have. That sounds familiar.
There's a lot of Friends and How I Met Your Mother crossover, not crossover like in universe, but like doing the same similar kinds of things.
Yeah. How I Met Your Mother was always intended to be like a Friends. I don't want to say spinoff because it wasn't as Friends, but it's like to take the success of Friends and translate it into another show so that like CBS could be like, okay, Friends is gone now. Come watch us. We're funny. We're just like Friends. Look, these 5 friends in New York City. What can they get up to?
Yeah. But How I Met Your Mother had enough of its own thing that it wasn't just a ripoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the gimmick of the mother helped at first, and then it was a detriment in the final season or season and a half.
Yeah. So Matt, what's another one on your list?
what is another one on my list? I loved the interventions.
That was on my list. That was number 2 on my list.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think you would have that.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I loved how much they brought that back. And then they had the intervention for having too many interventions.
Mm-hmm. The intervention.
That was great. It made me want to develop an intervention banner from my friends and just all us to start doing interventions with people around me. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't go over well.
It'd have to be the right friends who would get the reference and think it's funny.
Yeah. And who wouldn't take it too seriously. It's like, you should stop doing this, even though it's a joke.
Yeah. You could do one for me, like, Brian, you have to stop doing visual gags on an audio podcast.
Oh, I wouldn't waste my interventions on that, Brian. You got way bigger problems, friend.
Well, yeah, of course.
Brian, we've talked about this. You need to dye your hair.
Oh, you gotta do the pause. You should dye your hair.
I don't know why. I love the joke where like someone's reading from something and it's something like that where it's like it ends in a way that you would think or that like is really mean to say, and then they turn the page and they finish the sentence and it like makes better sense.
Yeah, but I got to tell you about the interventions. There's one specific intervention that makes me think like, oh my gosh, I'm Marshall, which is he had to make some charts for work, and all of a sudden he realized like the Xerox place can make all the charts he wants, and he's had this like, oh, we are going to have some fun, and it shows the montage of Marshall like, here's a pie graph showing my favorite bars, and here's a bar graph showing my favorite pies, and like all this different stuff. Like here's a list of the presidents by how dirty their names sound. And the funniest thing about that one is that Bush Senior and Bush Junior like are listed separately at different points in the list. And that's the kind of thing that I would do. We've talked about it. I have a color-coded spreadsheet about my favorite TV shows. Like that is what Marshall's doing. Like,
yes, you definitely love your senseless data. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Guys, it's so. Have you seen? There's like, there's a Venn diagram of diagrams that's kind of going around Facebook right now. Have you seen that picture?
No.
Oh my gosh. I can't. I'm not going to waste our time and find it right now, but I'll see if I can find it and send it along to you. That's another thing that like our poor listeners. Okay, you just brought up a joke and then aren't even going to pay it off. Sorry, guys, I can't remember stuff. I just wanted to bring things up and then leave it unresolved.
Well, bad payoffs is probably is on theme for How I Met Your Mother.
I was trying to think of a joke like that. You got it. Thank you.
I've actually thought about making a Venn diagram about you and me and the shows we watch, because there's definitely some overlap, but there's some shows that I watch and you watch, and they'd be in different spots of the list. I think the true center would probably be The Office, but like,
just Michael Schur shows in general.
Yeah, although
true center.
I mean, The Office isn't a true Michael Schur show because he didn't create it, but he was a writer and actor on it.
Yeah, and it felt enough of his style.
Exactly.
Was he ever a show runner on it for like a season?
No, because it was either Greg Daniels or else it went to Paul Lieberstein, who played Toby, and Jen Salata.
Okay. I believe you. I just wasn't sure. Since mine was on yours, let me bring up another one. Okay, this one I know you're not going to have, but I loved. In later seasons, they introduced a character that worked with Robin named Patrice. And Robin hated her. I laughed every single time that Robin chewed her out. And Patrice was like super nice and super gentle. And so she was always like trying to be helpful. It's like, oh, maybe you can do this. No one asked you, Patrice. Just freak out. And Kobe Smulders like yelling at the top of her lungs. And the face that she would make just got me every time.
Yeah, you did that. You did that to me once. Because remember, you had messaged me saying, it was a while back, saying, "Hey, look, I got this. Like the movies on a Monday episode and the TV Guys episode are going to drop on the same day, like synergy." And my response was, "Well, wouldn't that be movies on a Thursday then?" And you were like, "No one asked you, Patrice."
Yeah, it sounds like me.
Which, okay, by the way, I got the Loki episode done and edited in time so that you could upload it on a Monday for movies on a Monday. And you still uploaded it on a Tuesday.
I did do that, didn't I? Monday was, hey, I have lives that I attend to. So thank you for all of your hard work. And then I'm busy not loading it on a Monday.
You kind of,
I'm so good at helping us live up to that name. Great. I'm so glad we don't have a day in the title of TV, guys, because I would let us down on that one too, for sure.
When we were brainstorming on ideas, we considered like TV on a Tuesday for like synergy, but I'm glad we didn't do that.
Yeah, because I would drop the ball way too much.
You should look at the data and hey, make a graph about it, about how many, what percentage of movies on a Monday episodes actually dropped on Mondays.
I think I've started to adopt like a Captain Barbosa view of movies on a Monday. It was like, it's more like guidelines.
I'm not throwing shade on the podcast. I'm just throwing shade on when it drops.
Which is directly impacted by me. I am the guy in charge of that. Terrence, nothing to do with that side of it. It's all me.
Which means me and Terrence are innocent in this.
Actually, there are times, and it is Terrence's fault, when we can't record on the time that we need to, and then so like the next day we have to record, and then that's why it drops late. So every now and then it's his fault, but most of the time we're gonna put it on me.
Yeah. So I guess by now, if you don't listen to movies on a Monday, go check out that one as well. But keep listening to us as well.
I know. Oh yeah, don't leave us.
People just stopped the podcast right now. Well, they said that one was good, so.
Yeah, this one, I don't know what they're talking about. All right, what's another one you got? And I think I know what you're going to bring up.
Yes, and here is another visual gag.
We at least could hear that.
I'm hoping that comes
got slapped.
Yes, for our listeners, which are all of you, I just slapped myself in the face, which is worth it.
And for our not listeners, Brian just slapped himself in the face. You just don't know about it because you're not listening to us.
It is the funniest gag, and I love how they keep it going throughout multiple seasons.
Yeah.
So the story behind it, there was a bet involving Matt's next pick, I'm sure. And
yep.
The bet was that Marshall gets to slap Barney 5 times, and they give you spread out for the rest of eternity. You never know when it's coming, but he gets 5 free slaps as hard as he can. So he gets 5 slaps, and they space him out like you never know. And then every now and then, I should have gotten the list of when they all were. One of them, I know, Barney convinced all of them to go to his play. He rented a theater and got this horrible long play and making them all sit through it. And Marshall just gets up at the end, smacks him across the face, and he always turns back like, that's 4. That's 3. That's 2.
Yep. There's that one. There was I think there was 2 different Thanksgiving ones, because I know there was like the Thanksgiving countdown he did.
Yeah.
But I thought there was another one that happened. And then there's the one immediately that happened in the slap bet episode. But I think the one area that they dropped the ball a little bit is that they did like the first 3 all back to back really quick in like the same season. Yeah. And so then you only had 2 to spread out after that. And so then they put themselves a little bit of a corner, because like that I do love the idea of it, and the whole thing about it was hilarious. I'm so glad. Oh, he gave a slap bet to someone, didn't he?
Oh, it went around.
Like it was like
he gave it to like Ted, who gave it to Robin, who gave it to like Lily's dad, who gave it to Lily, who gave it back to Marshall. He ended up making the round of everybody who was there.
Yeah,
and it got back to Marshall. And I was like, guys, this slap got us together. And Barney, by the time Barney is tied to a chair, and he's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And they eventually did a thing where they did a second slap bet to add more slaps towards the end.
Did they? Now I'm blanking on that.
That's towards the end.
It's been a while since I've watched the show, and whoop. Okay, so I'm trying to talk to you while I'm trying to look it up on the phone, and I type in slip bat instead of slap bat. And now I type in slap bat because I'm still talking instead of. I'm so dumb. But the 8 slaps. Okay, yeah, there was.
So it was 5, and they added more.
Because there's 3 different slaps givings. Yeah, the second slap was at the play. The third slap was the first slaps giving with the countdown.
That's that would have the song, I think.
Yeah. And then the fourth one was when they pass it all around.
Yep.
Then, oh, yep. So then there's the duck tie bet. And so that's how he got more slaps, is by giving up the duck tie. So he would get 3 additional slaps. And then Marshall slaps him twice in that. So then there's 2 more. The third Thanksgiving slap. The slap of a million exploding suns. I vaguely remember that one.
Oh,
But
that
I
one
think
was
that was
kind of dumb. Remember, like,
yeah.
Marshall went on kind of like a racist vision quest with different versions of Ted, Robin, and Lily, who gave him like the speed and strength or whatever to give like the great slap.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it ended. Is that the one that ended with like a Boys to Men cameo? It was a weird episode.
I don't remember that one. There might be. I might have blocked it out on purpose. I don't know. The final one was the wedding day. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we always knew that the last one was going to be in the finale.
Yeah. And that's why, like, with the Thanksgiving one, when you had 3 slaps already done, you're like, well, you have 2 left, and you want to save one for later on in the series.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why they did this was because of a running gag that I loved, which I love the introduction of Robin Sparkles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but it just adds huge depth of layer to Robin and her past to be like, because she's such a tomboyish character, and she, like, there's, even though she's able to be feminine, she's like very decidedly tomboy. And so to have this phase of hers in Canada where she was a pop icon was such a unique and hilarious thing to pull out of nowhere. And then also have, like, Let's Go to the Mall was a fun song.
It was.
And to also bring in Alan Thicke as someone that she used to know from her time in
Mm-hmm.
her celebritydom. Was it? I like the first couple instances of it, and then like her like angry, like
grunge one. They had a
like
different name.
Alanis
Yeah.
Morissette type thing was like and then the PBS show that they had, pretty much
The
on the
2 beavers are
spaceship.
better than 1. Yeah.
Yeah, those are like so it started off strong, but then it just kind of, they ran out of ideas.
Yeah. Well, of that one, they talk about the whole is like who inspired Robin to be all grungy, and they had all these celebrities saying this. It wasn't me, including Dave Coulier, because he was the one that everyone thought what the Alanis Morissette song was about. Which there comes full circle. We've mentioned all the guys from Full House on this podcast.
We did it. Well done. Yep.
I thought your intro to this podcast was going to be everybody come and play. Let's go to the TV guys today.
No, I was saving that for the outro.
Oops.
Yeah, way to go. Way to ruin it. All right. Oh, and then one other thing to bring up. Did you have anything else to bring up? Because I had just one more that was like an obvious one to bring up. But
well, one that I was hanging out with Paul today, and he said they mentioned the goat, which is kind of cool. They kept gave references to Ted's having a goat be part of his birthday, but it kept being like, wait a minute, this happened later. And like, I forget what the eventual story was. Oh no, it was Lily saved a goat from being slaughtered when it was a show and tell from a farmer at her school.
Oh, Lily, you did it. You saved the goat.
And everyone kept seeing like, oh, that's a nice goat turd there, like automatically knowing it was a goat turd.
Man, there are some references you're making. I'm like, I very vaguely remember that. This show, it's been years. Like I'll rewatch The Office a lot. I'll rewatch Parks and Rec. I'll rewatch a lot of these other shows. Not rewatch How I Met Your Mother, maybe since it ended.
But now that you know the whole show, you can look at different things and notice how much attention to detail they made. Like you remember how they're talking about Veronica when Victoria, when Ted meets her, and they always talk about how she made such great cupcakes. Or oh no, it was a cake. Just the wedding cake was so great. If you go back and look at the background of the wedding, you can see Marshall eating the cake and just being like, oh, like you can see on his face, he like loves this cake so much. And that wasn't even the focus of the scene. It was just in the background because they were going to mention it later.
It's so funny. Yeah, there's there's definitely a reason this show was as big as it was and on for as many seasons as it was, even if it lost steam towards the end. One that I really like, and this was one that did pop up a lot even in the last season and was very still worthwhile. And then spawned a TV show out of it was the Karate Kid, Billy Zabka as the real Karate Kid instead of Ralph Macchio. I loved that whole joke. Just the introduction of it in that first episode where Barney, like, who do you root for? And so. I like how he roots for Hans Gruber and Die Hard. And then he just dropped him from the top of the building.
Yeah. He died hard. He was the title character.
That's right. It's a great joke. Oh man, I love it. It reminds me of the thing from New Girl with Schmidt, where it's like I don't remember who brings it up, but it's like Schmidt roots for Billy Zane in Titanic, and Zoe Deschanel is like, why does that make me angrier than anything you've ever done?
Yeah, that would have been a good trivia question. The Karate Kid thing. But we've already used that as a trivia question before on this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Did we land on who is going to be doing the trivia question this week?
I have one.
Okay, good. We of course you do, because we said that beforehand. We are completely prepared and totally professional.
Yep.
Gosh. I feel like as we're doing this episode, I'm like, man, there is so much I needed to go back and rewatch. I should have done like a binge session of like at least a season of this before going through this. But
every time, whenever I go to How I Met Your Mother, if I'm not doing a full rewatch, I'll always go to the slap bet episode in season 2.
That's probably the best episode because, like I said, it's got Slapbat and Robin Sparkles, both of those introduced in the same episode. Mm-hmm. I also love the one I mentioned earlier about the breaking the glass. I love it when shows do this, where they do like this quick reveal of secrets and blaming of all like the main characters. Mm-hmm. Like, the Friends did that where it was like all the people with the secrets. Yeah. Like Chandler and Monica are living together, and then I love Jacques Cousteau.
And then Joey, I want to go.
And then their mom stands up like, that's a lot to process. Mm-hmm. But I love it when it's like that rapid fire escalating a scene, because it takes place in like one of the main areas, and mm-hmm. all it is like giving you more background on these characters that you love, while also coming up with some really funny quirks and niches about them that you can fall back on in other episodes that they might make callbacks to. I think niche was the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
And a lot of times, whenever there's a secret, it's going to get out in a hilarious way. You just don't know how. Kind of like, to bring up New Girl again, remember when Winston and Cece are trying to make their own EDM to prove that Schmidt can't tell the difference? And he puts in the clip of, so I think it was Jess saying Reagan has a secret apartment, and then Nick hears that, and that's how he finds out.
What a random way to do that, man. Some writers, like, you've got to hand it to them. Like, where the heck did that idea come from? How did you think to do that?
Anything else before we jump into trivia?
I'll give one more. One of the classic that I was gonna say it at the beginning, but I didn't think of a good way to bring it up as a joke. But Barney's whole thing of like, it's legend, wait for it, dairy. It's a pretty good callback that it constantly does, but I especially loved it when it was the break between season 2 and season 3, I believe it was. Yeah. That was the best way that they used that joke, and like that you've reached perfection now. You can retire that. Obviously, they had a lot more to do, and they never retired it. It was like, you're not gonna get better than that, even though Robin and Lily and Marshall's baby's middle name was Wait for It. Still, I think between season 2 and season 3 was the best use of the joke.
Yeah, I remember back in college, I got my roommate Dustin into How I Met Your Mother. I had the DVDs, and I remember I left for work one day, and he was on the couch watching How I Met Your Mother. I came home from work, and he was still on the couch watching How I Met Your Mother, and had been there for my entire shift at work.
He just had to hear the story of How I Met Your Mother. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it's a good one, because according to How I Met Your Mother, that's the story that your kids are going to sit and wait for 9 seasons to hear the answer to.
Yep.
I don't remember how many seasons it was. Whatever.
Yeah, well, for you, wouldn't it just be like, hey, we both like Back to the Future? The end.
That's true. Yeah. No, it's funny. It's like people are like, "Hey, how did you meet your wife?" Well, we met in college. But actually, and then like, there's like this long story I'll tell, and it's really funny because it also has like a lot of moments where it's like you think that'd be the end of it, and like, oh, so that's how you met. Well, actually, no. Then what happened was this, and I don't know if people are amused by it or if they're annoyed by that many. Like, okay, I just want to know the end. I want to know how you met. I don't want to know this whole. Don't take me on a journey here, man.
Yeah.
I just want a couple sentences.
Well, I do remember one time, a bunch of us were at Joe Sensors, and it was like a joke bet between you, me, and Dan. And it said, which of the three of us can get a girlfriend first? And then you started dating Angie like the next week.
I'm really efficient. It wouldn't have been like the next week because we started dating over Christmas break, and I was in Omaha for about a whole month around between because it was college, and in college for some reason they give you a whole month off for
It was
Christmas.
somewhat soon after we did that.
Yeah, we probably did it like after Thanksgiving, and then had that talk because I vaguely remember that too. Mm-hmm. Man, you're just tickling the old ivories of the subconscious here.
I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that metaphor.
You shouldn't. That's my goal in life is to use phrases that people are like, I can't continue the conversation now. I have to respectfully bow out.
Yeah, the best way to make friends is to have conversations that they can't continue.
I view every conversation as a chess game, and if I don't end in checkmate, I've lost.
Well, how does trivia go into that? Because we should move into that next.
I don't know. But go ahead. What was last week's trivia?
We talked about Lost, and we talked about a lot of shows, but we talked about how Mama Cass Elliot was the song playing during the introduction of Desmond. And I said there was another Mama Cass Elliot song.
Which, by the way, I started this when I asked you if you had seen the movie Free Guy. That movie came out. It actually has that song in it, and I'm like, oh, Brian. So if you hadn't heard that song and you watch Free Guy, then you'll hear it. You'll know what song it is.
So I said there's another Mama Cass Elliot song at some point in Lost, and it comes in season 4, the episode Meet Kevin Johnson, which is the flashback to how Michael ended up on the boat. And it's when Michael is off the island and depressed and trying to kill himself, and he's going to drive into a brick wall. And he does that, and he still doesn't die. And on the radio, it's a song, It's Getting Better. Kind of an ironic choice.
It's really funny because I couldn't remember the song last week when you told me the answer to it. And then now you said the whole thing again. I'm like, oh, wait, no, I remember it now.
Mm-hmm. It's like Michael, like injured in a car accident. And it's getting better.
It's like, thanks, radio. All right. This week, what do we got?
Well, this is not a crazy big secret. Well, I think a lot of people might know this, but it's one of those ones that I remember as we're watching the show, people realizing I'd be like, oh, wow, I can totally hear that. So we talked about Marshall, one of the main characters of How I Met Your Mother. His dad is a recurring character on the show, and his dad is the voice of a popular cartoon character. So who does Marshall's dad, played by Bill Fagerbaki, also voice?
Which another character of that show is also voiced from a character from Lost, although that character was only in like 3 episodes.
Oh, true. Bonus trivia. We'll talk about that too.
Bonus trivia. All right. Well, that was it. And hopefully you enjoyed it. We enjoy talking about one of the best shows that we've watched. Where is this at in your rankings for like all your shows? Do you remember where?
How I Met Your Mother? Well, let me just double check real quick. I do remember that I bumped it down because of the finale.
I don't blame you.
While I'm looking this up, why don't you tell them what we're doing next week?
Next week, we are... Oh, yeah, next week. You guys probably are like us where you have at least one subscription service, if not multiple subscription services that you are subscribed to. Now, when you are having your date night or you're just sitting in front of the TV and you're like, I want something on or I want something in the background, you might spend a little bit of time surfing through Netflix, surfing through Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever, trying to find what you think would be the best thing to watch. Well, Brian and I are going to look up a little bit of some of the shows that are on a number of different streaming platforms, and we're going to tell you what we think would be one or two of the best shows on that streaming platform. So we're going to hit about 5 or 6 of the main big ones, and if there's anything on there that we say, hey, this is on there, you're like, oh my gosh, that show is on this streaming platform, then that'll be a nice cue for you to jump on there and start watching one of these shows with us.
Yep. For instance, spoiler alert, in the past month, I've gotten both my friend Alex and my son Charlie into The Good Place.
Nice. I almost called you Terrence. Going back to movies on a Monday. Brian, what is one of the shows that you are currently watching right now?
Let's see, what am I watching right now? One that I'll say is not, I'm a little bit disappointed with. I've been watching the iCarly reboot, which is not that great.
Of course you are. Why does it always surprise me when you're watching these Disney TV, like these Disney
That was
sitcoms?
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon. I'm so sorry that I don't know the difference.
I'm taking a break from doing big rewatches. I did just start Marvel's What If, which is good. I also just recently finished or caught up with Breaking Bad, or not Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul.
Nice. I haven't jumped into a new big serious show yet, so right now I'm just kind of killing time by watching both the Batman animated series from the 90s on HBO Max and The Simpsons on Disney Plus.
Nice. So I found out How I Met Your Mother is currently ranked number 14, but it's 14 out of 166. It's right after Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and it's right before The Big Bang Theory.
There's another one. Angie and I are watching through Big Bang Theory right now because I never actually finished it. I got to a certain point, I'm like, I'm bored with it. So it's an okay show. It's not the worst. It's not the best.
Yeah, I think the first 5 or 6 seasons is pretty strong and pretty tight, and then it just kind of gets the same after that.
Yeah, maybe it was the 5th or 6th that we stopped on. I can't even remember where it was that we left.
Yeah.
But speaking of leaving, we're gonna leave you now. We had some time together. We had some laughs. We had some tears.
Yep.
Well, I don't know who did, but someone probably did at some point cry. Yep. And until next week, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.